Right off the bat, we have the former White House Chief Information Officer, Theresa Payton, with us. What did you make, Theresa, of this response, or lack of response, from Putin?
I think he's taking a wait-and-see approach. You've got about 3 weeks left. And, you know, I know that President Obama needed to do something. A response needed to be made. And it'll be interesting to see in the new year with the new administration the negotiations that happen. And candidly, I'd like to see us start talking about offensive measures. A lot of what we've been talking about so far is after a breach has happened, what are we going to do about it? Let's talk about not having the breaches in the first place.
Now, to some extent, you talk about President Obama needing to do something. There has been some argument that he should have just left it for the next administration. But you're saying, you know, get out ahead of this, or, you know, and I'm sure there are some also that argue at the same time that he waited too long. So what's your view on the timing of it?
Well, you know, the thing is getting the intelligence together, the attribution, the information, the really who did it, who was behind it, is very hard. We don't have surveillance cameras. We don't have physical witnesses often with data breaches. And, you know, the president had to let the intelligence play itself out. The one thing that I think the new administration can take advantage of is, whether you agree with the actions that were taken or the timing of it, it sets the table stakes for negotiations.
Yes.
And now the new administration can come in and say, okay, the old administration did this. If you don't like it, how do we strike a deal? How do we talk about how maybe we agree to disagree on political espionage, but we need to talk about not attacking U.S. businesses? And if there are things about what the last administration did you didn't like, let's make a deal.
I agree with you, Theresa. I think that there's been a lot made of the fact that that President Obama boxed in President-elect Trump to some degree, but I think maybe there's a chance he did him a favor, maybe not intentionally, but he does set it up that these sanctions now can be used as a carrot, right? That Trump can come in and say, hey, listen, you want to get rid of the sanctions? Give us this, this, and this.
Exactly. And candidly, sanctions are not going to stop financially motivated hackers. It's too lucrative for them to continue hacking. And so I would like to see, in sort of a new deal next year, we talk to Russia, China, Eastern Europe, other countries that have been attacking U.S. businesses, and say, we don't want to see this continue. So how do we make it financially lucrative for these other countries to stop the hacking of American businesses?
Okay,
so
I was going to say, let's talk a little bit more about this. Theresa, stay with us. We have Manuel Gomez here as well, former FBI agent. Good to see you, Manny. Now, the other part of it, President-elect Trump says he will meet with intelligence officers next week over what's happened in Russia. Your take on kind of the approach from the Trump side of things to all of this, now that President Putin has decided not to go forward with any further retaliation, how does it set Trump up as he comes in?
I think it sets him up tremendously well, because now he has, like you said, a carrot.
Right.
He's able to make a deal, and that's what he does best.
Well, I wonder what does he make a deal on? You know, helping out with terrorism? There's something Syria related? I mean,
all of the above. Clearly, not only Russia, but Israel has sent a message that they're willing to work with Trump. So the first 100 days are going to set the tone for things as hacking, intelligence sharing, terrorism fighting globally, and Trump is going to try to form more of a partnership. Even though we're not friends with Russia, we don't need to be enemies with Russia.
Well, to that point, though, of not being friends with Russia, Trump has also spoken about it's time to move on. You're formerly with the FBI. The FBI put out that 13-page memo yesterday that said, in their view, fairly clearly, it was the Russians that did this. Is it time to, quote-unquote, move on, or does he need to be tougher himself on all this?
I think he will be tougher.
Okay.
We need to be tougher. They are hacking our systems. They are trying to steal our intelligence and our top secrets. But at the same time, now that Trump is going to be in power, I think he's going to be able to reach out to Putin and try to work it out. Let's face it, we're going to be continuing spying on each other. That's
right.
Just a fact. But that doesn't mean that we could be friendly adversaries.
Well, let's talk, Theresa, your view on that, and having worked in a Republican administration in your past, do you think that there is room for Mr. Trump to be tougher than the way he's presented himself so far, again, by saying it's time to, quote-unquote, move on? That doesn't seem to be going over very well with some Republicans, the likes of McConnell, McCain, Lindsey Graham, people like that.
Well, you can see from the standpoint of he has an agenda that he wants to roll out, and cybersecurity is going to be a big piece of the agenda. He said as much. Some of this can feel like a distraction. He's getting the intelligence briefing next week on this very issue. And at the same time, I think as he comes to sort of be more up to speed on some of the briefings, he will formulate his own policy. And candidly, it's not just Russia who's attacking U.S. businesses and U.S. organizations. It's China, other countries. Some are state-sponsored, some are lone wolves, some are cybercriminal syndicates. And we really need to start having international accords where we talk about disincenting countries for basically turning a blind eye towards these groups that are taking actions against American businesses. So we really do need to sit down and come up with sort of these financial incentives to disincent countries allowing this hacking to continue.
Now, our conversation to this point has been all about this new type of war, the war that takes place in cyberspace. But the president-elect moments ago just posted on Facebook about the traditional military. I read his post to you. He says, we're going to be building up our military. We're going to make our military so big and so strong. It'll be so powerful. I don't think we're ever going to have to use it. Nobody's going to mess with us. That I can tell you. So you have no doubt, Manny wrote that post. It sounds like out of one of Mr. Trump's remarks on the campaign trail. But the idea of building up the traditional military as a deterrent, that's a conversation certainly I think goes back maybe to President Reagan's type of talk, don't you think? Or?
Absolutely agreed. And we do need a strong military because in case we do need to use it, we have to have it. Right now the military is shrunk, and to be quite honest with you, other countries aren't fearing us as much as they used to, specifically Russia and China. Russia is building up their military. They've obviously taken over lands that they believe is sovereign to them. We disagreed, but we did nothing about it, perhaps because we couldn't do much about it. China is the same way. They're building up their military. It's time for us to be the world superpower in reality.
Now, we're going to talk about China a little bit later on. Happy New Year to both of you. Manny, good to see you. And Theresa, thank you very much for coming on as well.